welcome to the show. Let's cook meat. Sorry. Yes, let's cook meat. So today I've prepared 2 cuts of beef. First, we have this. This is the shin beef boneless from the Shin Primal, and you can source this meat from the front leg or the rear leg of the animal. Then we have a postural cut here, which is the short rib from the 4/4 Primal. You can source this from the rib set of the animals. So let's first look at what are the distinctive features of these 2 cuts. For this one, you can see not much fat, lots of connective tissue, as you can see the white things here, between the muscles. Then moving on to the short rib, it's very clear that there's a lot of marbling. There's this bone and also this one big piece of connective tissue in between, like on the bone and between the meat and the bone. So let's look at the meat quality traits. First, let's look at fat color. For fat color, we can't really judge on the shin beef because there really isn't any fat. Then we have the short rib here, which has a lot of marbling, but I'm gonna try to find some seam fat. There is. Yes, so around here, you can see the fat is actually not too white and also not too yellow. So I would say I would rate this at around like 2 to 3 for the fat color. And moving on to the meat color, both of these cuts are very similar in color. I would rate this around a 1C to 2. As for the marbling, same. We need to skip this one because there isn't any. But for the short rib, there's a lot of marbling over here. So I would rate this, because it's very variable, so it's around, I would say an MSA 600 to 1000, depends on like which piece of short rib here. If we look at the meat quality traits, I would say the main difference really lies on how the marbling goes. And yes, since this one has way more connective tissue, it really requires a slow cooking to break down all those muscle fibers, collagen in it, to make it soft and tender. But for the short rib, it is actually a really nice cut because you have the connective tissues, but also the nice marbling. So if you trim off the connective tissues, it would serve really nice, quick cooking meat. Or if you slow cook it or use it in roast it in the oven, it also tastes really nice because it breaks down that connective tissue and gives it a really nice mouthfeel. So let's move on to the cooking methods. For these 2 cuts, we're gonna do a casserole and a yakiniku. So for the casserole is a slow cooking method, also a wet cooking method, that you take your meat, chop it into 2cm cubes, brown it, then don't wash the pan, cook your veggies, add in the spices, the liquid, then put the meat back in, put on the lid, simmer for 2 hours on low heat. The good thing about this method is that since the meat is cooked in an increased environment, there will be minimal water loss. And also, the prolonged cooking time allows the heat to break down that tough collagen between muscle fibers, and in that connective tissue, it slowly converts it from collagen to gelatin, which, you know, it's a really nice mouthfeel when you eat that. In addition, as the temperature is low, the meat is less likely to overcook. So even with a long cooking period, like 2 hours, the meat is gonna remain moist and tender. In contrast, yakiniku is a really quick cooking method, and also it's a dry cooking method. You do it by slicing the meat in a 4mm thickness, and then cook it on top of a charcoal or a gas burner. Key feature of this cooking method is how thinly the meat is sliced, and also the high cooking temperature. High temperature quickly cooks the meat, and it also allows the development of that Maillard reaction. It gives us that really nice, flavorful char on that meat. I've chosen these cooking methods as they contrast each other really well, and especially the yakiniku methods really shows how different meat characteristics affects the eating quality. So let's move on to cooking. For each cooking method, we're gonna flavor the meat identically, but cook them separately to make sure it does not affect our taste test. We've prepared our retail cuts by cutting them into appropriate sizes, which is 2cm cubes for the casserole and 4mm slices for the yakiniku. Meat was sliced against the grain for the yakiniku. for the doneness, the casserole will be cooked from raw to well done in a constant 85 to 96 degrees Celsius, which is a simmering heat, for 2 hours. Whereas the yakiniku was cooked from raw to somewhere between medium well and well done. The temperature of the charcoal grill is around 230 to 290 degrees Celsius, and the cooking time is around 2 to 3 minutes per slice. Okay, now moving on to the sensory evaluation, let's start with the yakiniku. We have the shin beef over here and the short rib over here. So for the smell, I would rate them both 95 because both smells really good, always kind of different. And for the flavor, I would say both is actually really good, so 95 for them both. But for tenderness, shin is definitely a lot tougher, and the tendons are really tough with it, so I'm gonna rate it like a 40. As for the rib, it was really juicy, so 90 it is. And for the juiciness, same, because the shin beef there isn't much fat, so it was pretty dry, so let's rate it a 30. As for the rib, 90. And the overall liking, although the shin beef was kind of tough, it has really good flavor, so I'll give it a 65. As for the rib, perfection. Okay, now for the casserole, me and my assistant are gonna rate this together.
Hello.
Okay, so for the smell, how would you rate this too? This is the shin beef here, and this is the ribs, short ribs.
I think they both smell like very similar, and yeah, I would rate it similar to the yakiniku, like equivalently, so 95 for both of them.
And for the flavor, how would you say?
So for the flavor, I feel like the sauce of the stew really overpowers the, what's this meat called again?
This is the shin beef.
The shin beef, yes. It kind of overpowers the taste of the shin beef, but then the other one, it's like you can taste the stew and the flavor of the beef, so the flavor for this one's better.
Okay, so 1 to 100.
So I would also give this a 95. As for the shin beef, it would be around I think a 70, because I can't taste the beef.
No, it's there. It's just you can't really taste it as good as this one.
Yep, something like that, yeah.
Yep, and for the tenderness, we definitely have a winner
Yep.
here.
This is definitely the winner. So tender,
The short rib.
this is perfect. I can eat this all day.
What about the shin beef?
The shin beef is
It's kind of chewy,
It's
right?
very chewy, yeah, and you can really like
The meat fiber is kind of coarse.
Yeah, and it goes between your teeth, which is kind of annoying.
Yeah, that is annoying. So let's say this is around a 60.
Yeah.
60 or 50?
Around 50, I'd say.
Okay, 50 for the shin. And the rib?
Good, I'd give it 100.
Oh, okay.
Love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love it.
For the juiciness, well, we have a clear winner.
Yep. The rib definitely takes it also.
It's always short rib. Okay, 100.
Yeah, definitely.
And for the shin beef?
No juice in this.
No juice in this. So would you rate it 0?
I'll give it a 40 or 30.
30 it is.
Yeah.
0 is too harsh.
Yeah.
Okay, and the overall liking of these two?
Well, overall, I'd definitely take the ribs over the shin beef. So I'd give this like a 95 or 100.
Oh, 95 to 100.
Yep.
That's a high distinction.
And then for the shin beef, I'd give it a 50 or 60. Around 60, I'd say.
Okay, it's a pass. 50 to 60.
Yep.
Okay, and that's the end of our meat evaluation. Thank you. Bye. Okay, now that we've cooked both cuts and taste tested them, let's end with some general comments. For the shin beef and short rib, we both think that the short rib was way more tender and juicier than the shin beef. But in terms of flavorful, like both of them are really rich in that beef flavor. As for the cooking methods, yakiniku is really good at preserving that nice beef flavor in both cuts. It was surprising that shin beef wasn't really dry, like it was drier than the short rib, but it's really acceptable and we both think it's a really nice eating quality. As for the casserole, it was a nice cooking method too, but unfortunately the flavor of the shin beef seems to get lost in that whole stew, whereas the short rib really stands out as it has that really nice texture and flavor. So yeah, that's the end of our show and happy cooking!